Oh, that's right. Yeah, about how it takes until the following morning for the votes to come through.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, obviously, it seems to be a consistent theme that Republican voters tend to vote in person. They
Yeah.
go to the polling stations, whereas the Democrat voters tend to vote by mail, which takes longer to trickle through. And I think this was largely exacerbated by COVID last time, that put more uh, vote in balloting, which I think probably added to the conspiracy theories to a
Well,
large
yeah,
extent.
because there were, well, first of all, like with touch screen voting, which I don't know if you guys should probably do that over there, but
Not
you see,
really, no,
okay, well,
no.
that's I think touch screen voting is a real problem because there's no way that I'm aware of that once you go in there and you touch the screen, and then that like you touch the screen
Mm,
and then your vote is tabulated. There's no way, like there'd be no way to do a recount on that because how can they go back and they say, okay, well, this person at 10:59 a.m. pressed this, button and therefore and voted for Donald Trump or whatever, and we're going to recount all this kind of thing. There's no way that they can trace all this type of thing.
mm,
So when you do have a paper ballot, you have a paper ballot. You have that in your
yeah,
hand. All these touch screens and all these kind of other, sort of inventions and stuff. And I will
yeah,
say, touch screen voting, it's fast. You go in there and you're done. But
mm,
I've often thought that this is something that if there's going to be, a need for a recount, this is going to be really, really bad because there's no way you can trace all this
mm,
stuff. And we have had, I know in some of like the primary elections and stuff, where the parties are actually nominating candidates, which they do in the summer, like they were doing that in August for the election that's coming up in November. And I know, as a guy who basically studies all these numbers intently, that there were a number of candidates decided by one vote in a lot of these primary elections.
mm,
Candidate A would get 3,652 votes, and candidate B would get 3,651 votes. And so and that's I mean that actually did happen where we had guys who were named as the candidate for the Republican this, that, or the other thing, or Democrat this, that, or the other thing, by in some cases one vote, in quite a few cases fewer than 10 votes, where again, 5 votes at that point, if it's a 10 vote margin,
mm.
5 votes would swing or would have swung the entire election. So and again, with all the mail in voting and that kind of thing. And, what has happened here in where I live in St. Louis, in Missouri, that has always been something where, well, the St. Louis Democrats are hopelessly corrupt, and I think even they would admit that themselves. But what they oftentimes will do in a municipal election is they will wait until about 10 o'clock or so and see how far their candidate is behind, and
Right.
they will come on the television and they'll say, well, with, 85 or 90% of the precincts reporting, so and so is leading so and so. And they'll say, okay, we need then to come up with like 500 ballots. And miraculously, they do. Like in the morning,
Mm,
yeah, you find out that a late surge of ballots pushed so and so over the top. And
mm.
it's got to the point where like everybody's like, oh my gosh. And we've seen this before and nobody really wants to dig into it because it's probably a dead end. You're not going to get
Is
anybody to.
this all the whole push button voting? Is that all Horizon?
Well,
Or is it various different ones?
it's becoming now. Dominion
Oh,
is the
Dominion, that's the other one. Yes,
yeah,
Dominion. Right.
Dominion. And Dominion actually now they were in the news, and they sued. I think it was either Rudy Giuliani, the former
Right.
New York mayor, who was one of Trump's chief election kind of strategists and stuff. They sued
Mm,
him. They sued Fox News over here for defamation or for slander or something like that. And they won a very big judgment against them, but that's never going to be paid because the appeal, the judge who heard the appeal threw out the $765 million reward, so that's not going to be paid or whatever. But
Mm.
Dominion said that they had been kind of dragged through the mud on this, although people I know on the inside have told me that Dominion stuff is very unreliable
Right.
and that, it's very easy. They showed, how you can, just by sort of turning a screw or whatever, you can
Mm.
disable the entire system. And so that's
Mm.
that's concerning. Yeah.
What I yeah yeah I was thinking the reason I said Horizon, I was Horizon over here is something I suppose similar but not for the same use. We've had a scandal over here with a Horizon. It's called the Horizon IT scandal, which has been used for the post office, for Royal Mail, and various postmasters, about 700 postmasters in the UK, were falsely accused and convicted of uh, fiddling, theft,
Yeah.
because they would have to submit. Basically, this system was supposed to handle all the financials of each post office because they operate like a franchise. So the profits and losses and everything it does it automatically, and registers them to the head office. And what it was doing, it was just eliminating. I mean, to put it basically, it's probably more complicated, but it was basically just losing sums of money. It would just delete uh, uh, amounts,
Yeah.
thousands, and inexplicably. And then so they would get back to the postman and say, "Where's the money gone?" And they wouldn't know what they were talking about. And then they were dragged through the courts, for years. And
Yeah.
some of them even went to prison. And then I don't know, 10, 15 years later, it's all come out, and they're having to get compensation. Some of them, they've already had their lives wrecked by it.
Yeah.
They've
Right.
lost their businesses, and and I think this was a Japanese system. I think I can't, I believe. But yes, it's something I suppose similar. Relying on artificial intelligence, which is what I think often, without the sensible safeguards in place,
Hmm.
it's dicing with, well, it's just asking for trouble, really, isn't it?
Well, there's here in Missouri, one of the members of the state legislature has been pushing to, have the upcoming election to have only hand counted ballots. And of
Mm,
course, that's probably not going to happen because, in a country where you're going to have, well, we're probably going to have over 100 million people voting, probably 150 million people voting. That's not going to be feasible simply to have guys going ahead and counting the ballots out and that kind of thing. But that would be the only way that you would be, absolutely pretty sure that you're going to have a free election where you got guys watching as they're counting the ballots. But again,
mm.
that's probably not going to happen.
Well, you
And
can't. How do you have? You can't really have poll watching with electronic votes, can you?
no, that's
No.
that is one of the big things. And even the people who are all in favor of electronic voting and stuff, they say, well, that is a consideration and that is a potential danger. But in the world we live in now, you're going to have to go ahead. You can't return to doing everything by hand because that's just not going to be, again, when trying to hand count 150 million ballots, that's just not going to work. But on
Mm,
the other hand, this does give, I mean, the potential for fraud there is unlimited. And if there is a potential for fraud, you're probably going to end up getting it as soon as somebody figures, well,
mm.
we can do this and get away with it. So
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's going to be, varying degrees of limited cases of it sporadically.